Hi and welcome. Today I will show you how you can find the optimal combination of critical hit chance and critical hit damage. And I've done some math and found a formula for this, which is the critical hit damage plus 2 times the critical hit chance divided by 4, which will give you the optimal critical hit chance that you should have on your build to get the most damage. You find your values under stats in inventory. In this case I have a build 60% and 100%, and the optimal critical hit chance is around 55%, so I should change 60% to 55%, then I will get a damage increase. I also made a table. I'll show you the same example here with 60% critical hit chance and 100% critical hit damage, and we'll get 55% optimal critical hit chance. Okay, so what's the highest possible damage gain from this? Well, theoretically you can get up to 14.6% damage gain. You won't always get this, because the closer you are to your optimal critical hit chance, the less you can gain from it to change it, but this is the highest possible. Okay, so how do you change that? Well, the important part here is to only change on the minor gear attribute and gear mods, where we can trade 1 critical hit chance percent for 2% critical hit damage. And then the formula will work, and we will be able to increase our damage. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. If you want more content like this, subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell button so you don't miss out on other videos. Alright, let's look at the fun stuff then. The math behind optimal critical hit chance and the formula that I showed you earlier. So the reason it's possible to optimize critical hit damage is because critical hit chance and critical hit damage is interchangeable and codependent at an exchange rate of 1 to 2 on gear mods and minor gear attributes. So as long as we're changing our critical hit chance for critical hit damage on gear mods and minor gear attributes, we will get this change rate, which makes it possible to optimize. So the max rolls for gear mods and minor attributes are 6% for critical hit damage and 12% for critical hit damage. So as you can see, they change this 1 to 2, which is correct with the formula. We also have to consider that the critical hit chance cap is at 6%, and there is no cap for critical hit damage. So as long as we are at 60% critical hit cap, the rest will just go into critical hit damage. To be able to do the math, we need to define some variables and constants, and I will tell you what they mean, and then you will understand the mathematical functions better. So the first one is the interchangeable critical hit damage and critical hit chance. We'll find this on the gear mods and minor attributes. This is the percentages that we can change for the rate of 1 to 2. Then we have the total critical hit damage and critical hit chance. This is the values that we found under stats in the inventory, so it's the total value that we have at a given moment in a build. And then we have the base critical hit damage and critical hit chance, and that's the ones that are not interchangeable by a ratio of 1 to 2. So on weapon mods or maybe brand set bonus or other places, it's not a gear mod or a minor attribute. And the last one is critical hit damage maximum, and this is the total possible critical hit damage. So you take the total critical hit damage, and then you also add all the ones you could get from in changing critical hit damage to critical hit chance to critical hit damage. I'll have to make some base assumptions concerning damage calculations. So the damage is calculated by taking the critical hit damage total and multiply it by the critical hit chance total. And this will give us the average damage output. This will later on, if you look into the entire damage formula, this will be multiplied with all the other damage multipliers. Then we have critical hit damage total, which is critical hit damage maximum, the total possible critical hit damage minus 2 times the critical hit chance interchangeable. So, because they're codependent, if we increase the critical hit chance interchangeable, we have to remove it from the total critical hit damage. For the critical hit chance total, we'll just take the critical hit chance base and we add it with the interchangeable number. We can combine them to a function and we get this damage function here. With the critical hit damage maximum minus 2 times the critical hit chance interchangeable, and multiply this by the critical hit chance base plus the critical hit chance interchangeable. Alright, so the damage formula that we have, the variable will be a critical hit chance interchangeable. But it's easier to find the critical hit chance total, and this is the one that we want to optimize. So I have to substitute it, and I do this by using the basic assumptions on the former slide, and we get that the critical hit chance interchangeable is equal to the critical hit chance total minus the critical hit chance base, and that gives us this damage formula. And we simplify it into this. The critical hit damage maximum possible minus 2 times the critical hit chance total minus the critical hit chance base, and all this multiplied with critical hit chance total. In this case, the critical hit chance total will be the variable, we'll call it x, and all the other are constant. The base will not change number, and the maximum possible critical hit damage will also be the same, and we get the following damage function. The critical hit damage maximum times x minus 2x squared plus 2 critical hit chance base times x. And if you know some math, you will recognize this as a second degree mathematical function, and it will have a maximum. That means the maximum possible damage that we'll get out of this. Alright, now we want to find that highest damage, and we will find it at the maxima of the function. And to be able to find that, we need to find the derivative of the function, which is critical hit damage maximum plus 2 times critical hit chance base minus 4x, and x is the critical hit chance total. And we'll find the maxima when the derivative is 0, and we'll put up that equation and solve it for x. We'll find that x is the critical hit damage maximum plus 2 times the critical hit chance base divided by 4, and this is the optimal critical hit chance. This is, however, not the one that I showed you earlier. This has numbers that is a little, you have to calculate them instead of just finding them in your inventory. So I will show you how to change this so we can find instead have a critical hit damage total and critical hit chance total in the equation. So we have to substitute them, our constants, and we'll use the base assumptions that we made in the start to break out these values. So critical hit damage maximum is equal to critical hit damage total plus 2 times critical hit chance interchangeable, and the critical hit chance base is equal to the critical hit chance total minus the critical hit chance interchangeable. We substitute this in the equation for optimal crit chance, and we'll get the final equation, which is x equals critical hit damage total plus 2 times critical hit chance total divided by 4. And this is the final formula and the one I showed you in the beginning. And that's how you find it. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comment section below. And lastly, we will look at the math behind the highest potential damage gain that I also showed you earlier in the video. And to calculate the maximal potential damage gain from changing critical hit chance to the optimal critical hit chance, we have to make some assumptions, which are that we can change a total of 54% critical hit chance. This is from 3 gear mods at max rolls, 6% critical hit chance and 6 minor gear attributes. So the total there is 54% critical hit chance. And if we interchange all of this critical hit chance into critical hit damage, we'll get a total of 108% critical hit damage instead. And this is the highest possible amount of critical hit chance and critical hit damage that we can interchange. And the damage we will calculate from the meal value, so we'll take all the critical hit damage hits and then add them with the non-crit damage. Then we'll get the average damage output. And the equation is non-crit damage times the critical hit damage multiplied by the critical hit chance. And we add this with the non-crit damage multiplied with 1 minus critical hit chance total. Because the percentage of critical hit chance will be how many will be critical hit chance and the rest will be non-crit damage. And to simplify it, we'll call it MD for mean damage and non-crit damage NCD. From the earlier assumptions, we get that the critical hit chance total is equal to the critical hit chance interchangeable plus the critical hit chance base. In this case, we will use a base damage of 0 to simplify it. We're just interested in how much damage we can get from the interchangeable values. The critical hit damage total is equal to the critical hit damage maximum possible minus 2 times the critical hit chance interchangeable. In this case, we know that the critical hit damage maximum actually is 2.08 because it's 108% possible extra critical hit damage that we can get. Combine these assumptions with the mean damage function and we get the following equation. And this time the critical hit chance interchangeable is the variable and we will rename it to x. And we get the function non-crit damage times 1.08x minus 2x squared plus 1. And x is critical hit chance interchangeable in this case. That's what we want to optimize. To find the highest damage possible, we will calculate the derivative, and we find that it is the non-crit damage times 1.08 minus 4x, which is the critical hit chance interchangeable. We find the maxima when the derivative is 0, and we solve for x, which gives us an x that's equal to 1.08 divided by 4, and that gives us 0.27. So this is the placement of the maximum. We put this in the damage function and we'll get the highest possible damage, which is non-crit damage times 1.1458. And we calculate the damage gain as the percentage. We take the full damage minus the lowest damage, NCD, and we divide it by the lowest damage, this is the non-crit damage. and we get that the highest damage gain is 14.58%. And that is all. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.